So this is going to be an example of what a social combat can look like. I have here two characters from my uh, in-person Smallville game. Now, it started off as a masks game, and we had Frankie, who is here. You have to switch the direction you're pointing, and that's weird. So Frankie over here was a Nova in Masks when we started off. Masks is about teenage superheroes trying to kind of find their way in the world. She was a Nova. And so Nova is someone who has a great amount of power, has hurt people because of it, and is a little afraid of what their power is. Now, Nemesis, over here, is essentially my version of Swamp Thing. He is able to like control any sort of biomass, like live like fauna instead of flora. He can affect biological life. So he is essentially a god, and one of the things he sort of put in his backstory is he is trained a lot of heroes, but he is essentially afraid if he took over, or if he started kind of working more as a hero, he is so powerful, it would be very hard for him not to get to a point where he felt he had to completely take over everything. It's a trope. It's one I'm kind of fine with. I love the idea of that, and I've run role-playing games that have taken the idea of if you have a tremendous amount of power, how do you change the world? But this guy, we needed someone with a lot of power to essentially be the person who can train and teach Frankie. I forgot to put his name in. I'm going to do that now. So he's not completely statted up, but I've got most of. I don't have his relationship with the other characters who he hasn't met. I don't have other people. He is fairly powerful with what I have him for, because that's kind of part of his nature. Like, he's been around for a while. He's able to kind of be a part of everyone, literally in some sense. So he's that sort of ultra powerful NPC that usually comes in just to essentially test her in particular. So Frankie is part of the Outcasts, which is they in the mask game. We essentially went from being these teenagers who were a little unsure of themselves to people who literally destroyed our Doctor Destroyer, which was taken from Champions, which was taken from Doctor Doom. Ended up destroying him when he was going for like world domination and defeated a lot of people. So they are no longer superheroes that have to prove themselves. They kind of saved everything. So because of this, we switched systems to something that was more kind of character relationship based, which is one thing Smallville does. So anytime I roll, what I'm rolling is their values. So what's important here, their relationship, who they're doing it for, and then one of their distinctions or powers down here. So those are Nemesis, Frankie's, are over here. We have to fill in a couple of those still. But her thing is she's sort of super powerful. I need to put in her glory and justice. It's on her character sheet, handwritten. We just need to put it into the typewritten one. I'm going to be playing both parts on this side, so I'm going to be doing a little solo role playing, which again is a little weird, but for our purposes will work just fine. To show you how social combat can actually work. There'll be a little bit of a slowdown because I'm having to do something online. And anytime you do something online, it takes a little bit longer. So essentially, anytime that you roll something, you roll your dice, you take the top two dice that you get, and those are your total. And you're trying to sort of beat that. So we're going to go with something that happened recently, though they have not had a direct confrontation about it. I'm going to alter some of the facts a little bit. So we'll say that there were some members of Project Seahorse who are the group that did something with Antoinette, who's Oubliette, who's one of the other heroes. She was doomed in Masks. They did something to her. She essentially was created or turned into what she was in Project Seahorse. She doesn't have a lot of memories, but she managed to escape. A lot of the other supers that they had there died, as far as they know. So there was a group of those. She ended up letting some of them get away because she was too afraid to use her gravity powers, which are considerable, because she's always nervous about using her abilities to the best that they could possibly be used. So Gravitar is, I'm going to get his dice pool first, so I'll know what he's going to be doing. So, and I'll just go over this quickly because he'll be using the same thing probably for a bunch of it. But part of it is his idea that power must be originally controlled, which he has at a D10. His relationship with Frankie, which is at a D8. Part of his mission is to train the very powerful people in order to use their abilities better. Actually, he's strictest teacher. I'm going to use strictest teacher instead here because he's showing up to let her know that she don't fucked up. I'm going to alter this a little bit. Actually, make that a D6. He's not particularly good at being a strictest teacher. His stuff is pretty good across the board. I'm going to start him off with a less. So I'll be playing both Nemesis and then Frankie, who is Gravatar, when it comes down to it. Frankie, you let those people go free. Anyone else they run into, anyone else they happen to kill, the destruction that they're going to bring later on to you and yours is on your hands, because when it came down to it, you were too afraid to do what you needed to do and to use your powers. So he has a total of 11. Now with her, if I'm playing her, I'm looking at it. Her power is something you'll notice she's not very good with. She's nervous about using it. So she grabs a D4 for that. She grabs a D8 because right now she's talking about her mentor, which makes her nervous. And willful, which she's also not particularly good at. Not to go smartass. She's had a rough night. She's kind of had it. So at this point, yeah, but you weren't there. I didn't have the time to sit there on the sidelines and try to figure out what to do. Instead, I had people that I counted on me, people that I loved, that I had to worry about. So yeah, I didn't do maybe the exact right thing, but I tried. Oh, crap. Okay, so she rolled super bad. So a 2. Now, he could take her out on this one, but he doesn't want to yet. He wants to inflict some stress. And she rolled the 2 1s, which would be add something to a trouble pool where they don't count. We're not worried about why. So what he does is he re-rolls his. He's going to give her the 6, which is on his D10, is highest. So she's going to get D10 stress. So I'm going to make a quick note. As a matter of fact, D10 insecure stress, which he'll now be able to roll because she's nervous about it. So go back up there. Roll his again. Make that 2D10. He can kind of keep it the same. And what happens next time when your power is not there? What happens when you fuck up? What happens when Antoinette, your girlfriend, ends up dead because you were too weak to do what needed to be done? Think, Frankie, you have to be on top of this. So I rolled for him. I got a 12. Now, for Frankie, that's going to change things a little bit because she loves her. She loves Antoinette. They have a D12. Her love is also a D12. She's actually able to now switch it over to that. And also the fact that she might use her gravity manipulation in this case to sort of bring her point. So she's able to roll 3D12 instead of before. She's like, you think I would let them harm Antoinette? Frankie closes her hand, starts to float up into the air, and everything in the room starts to lose some of its gravity. I will turn this world upside down if they try to harm her. I will smash into jelly anyone who comes near her. She was not in direct danger. So for her, that 14 beats his. And the backhanded here for him looks good. So D8, D8. But it's D4 for love because he doesn't really get love that much. So he's trying to go against a 14. He goes, yeah, this time. This time she managed to survive. They have weapons with them. You never know where they're going to end up firing. You never know what's going to happen when her doom overcomes her. You are not ready for this. And here, he rolled. Sorry, that actually should have been another D8. So he rolled an 11. He was not able to actually beat her 14. So he gets a D12. Wow. Shit. Go Frankie. We'll say angry stress because essentially she is not, or rather he's in the point where he's not necessarily believing. Actually, you spend a plot point to decrease. Another leader features angry or insecure stress. Yeah, he has the ability. She's going to go, I'm going to make that angry stress. Well, his backhanded, which he just rolls, means he can actually lower that by 1. So roll 2d12 plus 1d10, which is the highest, is still a d12. So he gets d12 angry. So he's now pissed. So she decides to press her advantage here because he's pissed off. She's also a little bit angry. So she's gonna roll her 2d12 for his angry and for her love, a d8 for her relationship with Nemesis, and then as she looks over the stuff that she's got, d4 for her willful, giving her 12. I think this is more about you. You have distanced yourself so much from people. You think you understand what's going to happen when things get down to it? She gives me the power to overturn the earth if necessary. If you think for a moment I was looking out for, it's just because you've so far removed from humanity that you don't understand it anymore. And then he's going to roll her d10 stress, d8 relationship with her, d4 with love. She's kind of talking about that, which is, again, something he's not been good at for a long time. And I'm looking at his other stuff. I'm thinking he's angry enough. None of the rest of it necessarily makes sense. It's backhanded. I think backhanded does. And it's backhanded because he's going to be a little bit cruel on this one. You think I don't understand? You're the only person in the world who ever fell in love just because someone finally looked at you who wasn't afraid of the things that you can do. I've seen people I love die. I've seen what happens when it fails. Look at me and think you have any idea what that means? What I've been through? You're still a child. I thought you were better. Now, he beat her by 1. She can still roll her love. I think she's also bringing up here again with Antoinette and her anger about that. And she'll go whole hog. The gravity in the room starts to actually constrict upon everything but Gravatar in there, even though she knows it's not going to affect Nemesis to a large degree, since he's able to control his own physical body as much as he sort of needs to, and even appear elsewhere. But everything else in the room starts to warp and bend as she lets go with a lot of her power. She rolled an 18, which beats the hell out of his 13 by 5. She decides that she wants to go ahead and take him out. She goes, "You need to leave now before I crush you into dust. I've been through a lot today. I'm not going to take your bullshit right now, Nemesis. At least you can do is get a real fucking name. Get out." And Nemesis, now that he's been taken out, he either can stay and not be able to roll again or make a mechanical difference, or he's essentially removed from the scene as far as being a vital part of it, which means at this point, that's a good time to then switch over to another scene. So we've had a quick scene where we've had, and again, this is one where they're able to, if they got the stuff in front of them and it takes less time to type the stuff in there, just grab the dice, roll as it goes, but it can actually inform and keep that from being a super long scene where it's just deciding, is it going to work or not? Because I might come in going, Nemesis is just, he's a badass. He's an absolute badass and has been around a long time. And what's she going to tell him? Well, if she decides to start using her power, in this case, the biggest thing that she has to use against him, like her other distinctions just aren't the same level. And when it comes to her love and her girlfriend in particular, she swings a mighty big bat. And enough that he realizes he might have to go away. But it's always a little bit unsure. Now, she's left with the D10 insecure. He's got the D12 angry, and plus she'd re-roll again, which would be, well, she'd give him, by taking him out, also go ahead and give him probably insecure stress, that maybe he's leaving wondering if he's forgotten how much love does make a difference. He's become so disconnected to humanity. So I have something to go off of for him. Now, if she happens to see him later on and he's still got that stress, they can still roll that for each other, which I think I forgot to do because I'm doing both sides on that last one. Yeah, she'd have been able to roll another d12 on that one. Um, but in that case, it narrows down the role playing so that it's happening faster. It's more meaty. It's closer to what you see in a good, well written movie or TV show or book. And it's the kind of thing that actors are specifically trying to find whenever they are performing. So that's an example of how it can actually help the role play. Slowed it down a little tiny bit, but that's one where in person where you're just grabbing most of the same dice, and while they're talking, double take a quick look. I'm going to use this time. They're changing up their tactics. They are advancing what's important for their character, and they're not just having the same argument over and over and over again. So that's one example. I might get some online with some other people where they're both able to concentrate on their characters, and I'm able to concentrate on helping out as necessary. But I hope you find it informative. Thank you much.